Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Welcome to our latest episode. In this video, we delve into the enigmatic world of strange wilderness disappearances, cases that defy explanation and challenge our understanding of the great outdoors. From uncharted forests to remote mountain ranges, these mysterious vanishings have left investigators baffled and communities haunted by the unanswered questions that linger. Join me. Let's walk and see. First up, Barbara Bolck. 55-year-old Barbara Bolck and her husband's cousin, Donna Biles, and Donna's boyfriend, Jim Ramaker, planned to hike Barbara's favorite trail on July 18, 2007. The Bear Creek Overlook Trail is about a 15-minute drive from her home and is a 4.5-mile out-and-back trail near Victor, Montana. This trail is rated moderately complex and is frequented by hikers. It offers a breathtaking view of Bear Creek and the surrounding mountains and boasts stunning wildflowers. Donna woke up feeling unwell on the morning of the hike and decided not to join. However, Barbara and Jim still wanted to go, so around 8:30 or 9 a.m., Barbara informed her husband Carl that she and Jim were going to the Overlook and would return later for lunch. Carl then spent the morning working on a carpentry project. Donna grew concerned around noon when she realized that Barbara and Jim had not returned from the hike. However, Carl reassured her that Barbara was an avid and experienced hiker who knew the area well, so there was no need to worry. He was confident that they would return soon. Additionally, Carl informed Donna that Barbara was always cautious and that she brought a backpack with her containing food, water, and a firearm for protection against predators. Around 2 p.m., Carl received a phone call. It was a Forest Service law enforcement officer. She asked me if my wife's name was Barbara, and I instantly thought something terrible had happened, Carl said. After finding out that Jim had reported his wife missing, Carl rushed to the Bear Creek Overlook Trail, hoping to find her. However, she was nowhere to be found. Jim Ramaker reported that he and Barbara hiked the entire Bear Creek Overlook and stopped for lunch. During their hike, they encountered two young men on the trail and spoke to them for about half an hour. After finishing their meal, Jim and Barbara started to head back to the trailhead. At one point, Jim stopped to admire the view and looked back for around 45 seconds. When he turned back around, he discovered that Barbara, who had been walking ahead of him by about 20 or 30 feet, had vanished. Despite calling her name and searching the surrounding area, Jim found no sign of Barbara or her backpack. As Jim was searching for Barbara around the Bear Creek Overlook Trail, he noticed that the area had loose shale rock, which would have made it difficult for anyone to move about quietly. Despite this, Jim didn't hear any screams or cries for help, which made it less likely that Barbara had fallen over the overlook. Jim eventually gave up his search and headed back to the trailhead. However, he found that the road leading to the trailhead was closed for maintenance that day, and construction workers were there. Jim briefly described Barbara to them and asked if they had seen her, but they said they had not. However, the workers did recall seeing two young men with a black and white dog leave the trail earlier. Jim reported Barbara missing shortly after this. After 2 weeks of intensive searching and investigation, Ravalli County Sheriff Chris Hoffman said Barbara Bollock's disappearance was a mystery. Quote, "We are perplexed. We have combed the area in the vicinity of the disappearance very well. No trace at all has been found. We would like to verify, if we can, that Bollock was even on the mountain that day." End quote. Now, theories on Barbara's disappearance range from an intentional disappearance to an animal attack to foul play. Barbara Bollock was last seen near the Bear Creek Overlook in the Bitterroot Mountains, west of Victor in Montana, on Wednesday, July 18, 2007. She is described as a Caucasian female, standing 5 feet tall, weighing 115 pounds, with brown eyes and red or auburn hair. She has pierced ears and was last seen wearing a pastel-colored shirt, tan shorts, and carrying a black-colored backpack. Anyone with any information regarding Barbara's disappearance or whereabouts is asked to contact Missoula County Sheriff's Office Special Agent Lee Oley at 406-830-8020 or Missoula County Sheriff's Office Special Agent Norm White at 406-830-7006, or Ravelli County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant Zay Hudson at 406-375-4020. Next, we have Arvin Walter Nelson. On August 6, 2014, 51-year-old avid hiker Arvin Walter Nelson was dropped off by a friend at China Camp near Tasahara Road, high and deep in the Los Padres National Forest. Arvin had lived in the Big Sur area for years and was familiar with the surrounding wilderness areas. He was possibly en route to Pine Valley, Pine Falls, or the Black Cone Trail. Arvin was supposed to finish his hike at Big Sur Station from Sykes and the Pine Ridge Trail and contact his friends on August 14. When Arvin failed to arrive at the Big Sur Station on August 14 as expected, a massive search and rescue operation was initiated on August 16. The Monterey County Sheriff's Department, in cooperation with the National Guard, U.S. Forest Service, California Highway Patrol, and the Coast Guard, scoured the area with helicopters, dogs, and ground crews. Despite their best efforts, the search and rescue operation was unsuccessful in finding Arvin. Sadly, authorities were forced to call off the search for Arvin on August 25. Commander John Thornburg of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office said, quote, "The reason the search has been going on as long as it has is he's an experienced hiker. He took equipment with him, and he planned to be gone for a long time." End quote. Commander Thornburg also said Arvin may have gotten lost or injured, and he may have been waiting for search teams to find him. He had food, water, and equipment for an extended stay in the wilderness, but he was hiking in a large wilderness area with dense vegetation cover. The last people to see Arvin may have been Jack English, who lived for 13 years in an isolated cabin in the Ventana Wilderness, and his son, Dennis, according to Stan Russell. Russell said Dennis and Jack had gone out to visit their cabin in Pine Valley on August 6. A couple hours after they arrived, Dennis was sitting inside the cabin playing guitar with his father, Jack English. He heard a voice outside asking to approach the cabin. It was Arvin, who had heard the guitar playing and came up and introduced himself. Dennis welcomed him in and befriended Arvin. They hung out, played music, and hiked around Pine Valley for a couple of days. Dennis and Jack were picked up by helicopter on the 8th, leaving Pine Valley. Arvin saw them off. He told Dennis he was going to be staying through Saturday the 9th and then hiking the 11 miles to Sykes on Sunday morning the 10th. Arvin Walter Nelson is described as an African-American male, standing 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 200 pounds. He has black hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing brown hiking boots, a dark blue backpack, and was carrying leather flip-flop sandals. Anyone with any information regarding Arvin's disappearance or whereabouts is asked to contact the Monterey County Sheriff's Department at 831-775-3722 and reference case number 14-05301. Next, Dave Cook. On September 19, 2016, 49-year-old Dave Cook, an accomplished mountaineer from Albuquerque, New Mexico, was going for his 47th summit of a 14er by solo climbing either Pyramid Peak, Maroon Peak, or North Maroon Peak, or possibly all three, in the White River National Forest in Aspen, Colorado. Dave, a former Marine with a wealth of experience in the backcountry, was well equipped for this trip. Unfortunately, when Dave failed to return home, his family immediately knew something was wrong. His wife, Maureen, described Dave as a kind and caring person who wouldn't just leave his family. Dave was reported missing to the Pitkin County Sheriff's Office on Tuesday, September 20, 2016. During the investigation, deputies learned that Dave arrived at the Maroon Bells Snowmass Wilderness area shortly after 11 a.m. on Monday, September 19th. Dave was seen on Monday, September 19th, hiking near the trail to Maroon Peak. Additionally, Dave's cell phone pinged cell towers in Aspen and Gunnison counties later on Monday. The sheriff's office said it's not unusual for cell phones at high elevations to ping cell towers from the wilderness. Dave was also reported to have been seen on Tuesday morning by a U.S. Forest Service employee near Maroon Lake, the last confirmed sighting of him. This sighting and other details directed search teams to focus their effort in the Maroon Bells Snowmass Wilderness area. After 8 days of searching with no results, the Pitkin County Sheriff's Office suspended the search. The incident management team conducted multiple ground and air searches over the 8 days following Dave's disappearance. In the wake of Dave's mysterious disappearance, Maureen, Dave's wife, and other members of Dave's family set up the Dave Gives Back campaign to help raise funds and awareness for search and rescue teams in Colorado and New Mexico. Maureen wants to ensure that Dave is not forgotten and that other families do not have to endure the same ordeal. David Dave Cook is described as a Caucasian male, approximately 5 foot 10 inches tall, 175 pounds, with short brown and graying hair and light eyes. He was last seen wearing an earth-tone colored shirt, a blue jacket, a black backpack, and khaki pants. Cook was reportedly carrying a blue climbing helmet and is described by his friends and family as friendly and outgoing. The Pitkin County Sheriff's Office requests anyone with any information regarding Dave's disappearance or current whereabouts to please contact them at 970-920-5300. Next, we have Delmer Wayne Sample. Delmer Wayne Sample, a 53-year-old pharmacist, was a well-known and respected community member in Onalaska, Washington. He was an avid outdoorsman and was always in good shape. He loved spending his weekends in the wilderness, but always remembered to keep in touch with his family and co-workers. Delmer was also known to make last-minute changes to his plans, but he always informed those who needed to know. Therefore, it was highly unusual when he went missing and didn't show up for work. His family and friends knew that something was wrong and began to worry. On the weekend of March 4, 2005, Delmer planned a restful trip to the woods. According to witnesses, he was seen at a gas station around 11 a.m. on March 4 at the intersection of Interstate 5 and Harrison in Centralia, Washington. It is believed that Delmer then continued his journey to Tillamook, Oregon. However, 3 days passed without any contact from Delmer, and when he failed to show up for work, his employer reported him missing. A press release by The Chronicle reported that an employee at the Chehalis Walmart failed to show up for work. The Lewis County Sheriff's Office was notified of the situation. The article also mentions that the employee, Delmer, had never taken an unexcused absence in the 15 years he had worked at Walmart. As a result, the Lewis County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation and initiated a search for Delmer. Delmer's friends were interviewed extensively, and this is where the police would obtain their first clue. Delmer told his friends that he planned to travel to Tillamook, Oregon, over the weekend of March 4, 2005, to visit the Tillamook Cheese Factory. Tillamook is around 158 miles from Onalaska and would have taken almost 3 hours to drive there. With this new lead, investigators focused their efforts on Tillamook and the roads that Delmer would have taken to get there. During the early stages of the investigation, officers received an important tip. According to records, Delmer's red and white 1992 Ford Ranger pickup truck had been inspected by a park ranger in the Olympic National Park close to Lake Quinault. The ranger had taken note of the vehicle as it had been parked there for quite some time. Only after Delmer's disappearance was reported through the National Missing Persons database could the ranger and investigators connect the dots. Over the next few days, the Lewis County Sheriff's Office searched the wilderness in Olympic National Park, and 2 days after Delmer was reported missing on March 7, a new discovery was made. On March 9, the Lewis County Sheriff's Office and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office found Delmer's abandoned 1992 Ford Ranger in a roadside pullout on South Shore Road near Lake Quinault. Unfortunately, Delmer was nowhere to be found, and the only items in his truck were his sleeping bag and food. The Lewis County Sheriff's Office was joined by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, as well as search and rescue teams from Jefferson, Kitsap, Grays Harbor, and Clallam counties. After discovering his truck, investigators continued searching in Olympic National Park. However, despite their best efforts, no sign of Delmer has ever been found. Now, some speculate that Delmer may be a victim of the infamous Israel Keys. Reddit user u/sleuthing something commented on a thread, quote, "I knew Del. He went to my church in Chehalis and worked as a pharmacist at our local Walmart. He said he was going to the Tillamook factory in Oregon, yet his truck was found north near Lake Quinault. They found a Diet Mountain Dew bottle beside it. Israel Keys was known to be an avid Diet Mountain Dew drinker, but Del didn't think synthetic drinks were healthy and didn't drink any soda. Keys also lived in Nia Bay at the time, frequently camped near Lake Quinault, and he can't be accounted for in the days leading up to Del going missing." End quote. Since Delmer disappeared in 2005, little progress has been made in his case, but his loved ones remain hopeful. Delmer Wayne Sample is described as a Caucasian male, standing 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighing 180 pounds, with graying brown hair and hazel or blue eyes. Delmer had a beard and mustache at the time of his disappearance. He has a scar on his big toe and a healed fracture on his left arm. Anyone with any information regarding Delmer's disappearance or whereabouts is asked to contact the Lewis County Sheriff's Office at 306-748-9286 and reference case 05C2774. Next, we have the case of Patricia Sue Patty Tolhurst. Patricia Patty Tolhurst, a 48-year-old woman who owned Patty's Shack restaurant in East Sonora, California, was known for her kind and loving nature. Unfortunately, she faced financial hardships which took a toll on her both physically and mentally. On April 18, 2014, Patty was last seen in Twain Harte, California. However, she was in contact with her friends after that. On April 20, 2014, she wrote a letter to her friends informing them that she was going to Kennedy Meadows, which is located along the Pacific Crest Trail Desert, and was going to, quote, put her feet in the water, end quote. Kennedy Meadows is often referred to as the Promised Land, as hikers have to hike over 700 miles to reach this beautiful site. When Patty later failed to contact her friends and family, the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office was notified that she was missing and initiated a search. 2 days into the investigation, a clue was discovered. On April 22, 2014, Patty's white Toyota 4Runner was found unoccupied at Donnell Vista Point on Highway 108. Her purse and other personal items were found inside the vehicle. There were no clues as to where Patty might have gone, and the sheriff's office thoroughly searched the surrounding areas. Unfortunately, these searches yielded no results, and as of 2024, Patty remains missing. Patricia Sue Patty Tolhurst is described as a Caucasian female, approximately 5'7" to 5'8" inches tall, between 120 and 130 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a scar on her ankle and a scar on her left cheek that resembles a dimple. Patty was last seen wearing a black pullover top, blue jeans, a brown leather necklace with a charm, and a California State University at Stanislaus 2006 class ring. Anyone with any information regarding Patty's disappearance or current whereabouts is asked to contact the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office at 209-533-5855 and reference case number C14-1184. And now the case of Paul Kuchi. 60-year-old Paul Kuchi was last seen on September 8, 2021, at the Roaring Brook Campground in Baxter State Park, Maine. He had booked a 2-night stay at the Russell Pond Campground and arrived there around 9:45 a.m. on September 8. He parked his light green 2015 Toyota Prius at the Roaring Brook parking lot, where he intended to leave it during his stay. The vehicle was backed in with the key fob inside, and it was unlocked. A park ranger spoke to Paul sometime between 10:30 and 11 a.m. regarding the park and Paul's plans for the trip. After the conversation, Paul continued on the trail toward Russell Pond and was not seen or heard from again. The day after, on September 9, Paul's family received concerning letters, prompting authorities to initiate a search. Despite extensive efforts by park rangers, officers, and volunteers to find any clues, Paul's whereabouts remain unknown. Paul Kuchi is described as a Caucasian male, standing 5'10" tall and weighing between 150 to 160 pounds. He has graying hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a red long-sleeve shirt, tan shorts with a tan belt, a dark hat, and gray/green hiking boots. Paul was also carrying a backpack and a rifle. Anyone with any information regarding Paul's disappearance or whereabouts is asked to contact the Maine State Police at 207-532-5400 and reference case number 2021-52-10. Next, we have the disappearance of Jung Yan Juan. According to the National Park Service, 45-year-old Jung Yan Juan's white Toyota Camry was found abandoned at Moran Point on the south rim of Grand Canyon National Park on September 17, 2017. Investigators also found that his car had been seen near the New Hants trailhead, but nobody could confirm if Jung Yan was in or around the vehicle. Jung Yan has been missing ever since, and little information is available regarding his disappearance. Jung Yan Juan is described as an Asian male, 5 foot 7 inches tall, 121 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information is asked to please contact the National Park Service at 888-653-0009. And lastly, we have the case of Daniel Lyn Dan Campbell. Tracy Erb was eagerly waiting to meet her boyfriend, Daniel Lyn Dan Campbell, who was 42 years old, in the Jardine area outside of Yellowstone National Park on April 6, 1991. The couple lived in Sweetgrass County, Montana, and had big plans for the future. 2 days before their meetup, on April 4th, Dan had entered the park with his loyal dog to search for elk antlers. On that day, Dan had entered Yellowstone National Park and was dropped off with his 1-year-old Australian Shepherd Heeler mix named Freckles at the Hellroying Creek trailhead. Unfortunately, this was the last time anyone saw or heard from him. On April 8, 1991, he was officially reported missing, and a search and rescue effort was launched. According to sources, Dan only packed a small amount of gear as he did not plan on staying in the park for long. As the weather changed and thunderstorms rolled in, concerns about his safety and well-being grew. Despite being an experienced outdoorsman with extensive knowledge in pole cutting, Dan stood little chance against the elements without proper equipment and clothing. During the search, authorities failed to uncover any sign of Dan or Freckles, which led his family to believe that he had met with foul play. In the months after his disappearance, Dan's brother, Billy Campbell, told the Helena Independent Record, quote, "He had been running with some pretty shady characters. I'm not saying he's an angel, because he's not," end quote. His younger brother, Rod Campbell, further told the Deseret News in July 1991, quote, "If Dan's in the park, he's buried. I don't think Dan is alive. How that demise came? Well, I've got a lot of mixed emotions about it," end quote. Now, there were rumors that Dan ran away to start a new life, but his family denied them. They stated he was going to inherit a large sum of money, which he planned to use to buy a new house. Due to the lack of updates in Dan's case, his family grew increasingly frustrated with law enforcement. In February 2000, they filed a federal lawsuit against Park County Sheriff Charlie Johnson. According to news reports, the lawsuit stated that Sheriff Johnson, quote, "breached his legal duty to properly and competently conduct the investigation relating to the disappearance of Dan Campbell," end quote. As of 2024, no trace of Dan Campbell or his dog Freckles has been found. Dan Campbell is described as a Caucasian male, 5 foot 7 inches tall, 130 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. Dan has a healed fracture on his left hand, a scar on his chin, a scar on his upper right arm, and a gap between his front teeth. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the Sweetgrass County Sheriff's Office at 406-932-5143 or the Park County Sheriff's Office at 406-222-2050 and reference case number 91-60. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of these strange wilderness disappearances? As always, I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. Until we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. As for me, I'll see you a little further on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. And please, tell your animals I said hi.